Hello, I'm Chauncey Beaumont. I'm one of the most underrated literary geniuses in Cleveland, and I'm here to read you a story. So, I've been working on this short story that I hope to eventually turn into a Broadway musical. It is called The Unfortunate Chili Incident by Chauncey Beaumont. All my darlings, gather close, for I'm about to tell you a tale so absurd, so catastrophically nonsensical, that by the end you may question your very existence. It all began on a Thursday, a day which, historically speaking, has never been trustworthy. The year was 1997, in a hustling heart of Cleveland, Ohio, inside a diner so old that the menu still offered medicinal leeches as a side dish. Sat Reginald P. Thistledown III, a man of refinement, sophistication, and a deep, unshakable fear of geese. Now, Reginald wasn't just afraid of geese in the way that one might be afraid of heights or running out of toilet paper at a crucial moment. He believed with every fiber of his well-moisturized being that geese were out to ruin his life. And my dears, he wasn't entirely wrong. Gerald was not an ordinary goose. He was vengeful, calculated, criminal mastermind of the avian world. Some say he once stole a man's social security number just to open a Blockbuster account. Others say he once sold a fake Rolex to an actual Rolex dealer. All I know is that Gerald had a score to settle with Reginald, and tonight was the night. Reginald, completely oblivious to his impending doom, was sitting in the diner, indulging in a bowl of chili that the waitress had ominously called the decision you'll regret. It was at this precise moment that the door burst open with a gust of wind so dramatic that it flipped over the entire tray of pancakes at the neighboring table. And there in the doorway, silhouetted like a Wild West outlaw, stood Gerald. Reginald locked eyes with the goose. And in that instant, every decision he had ever made in his life, every crosswalk he'd ever stepped on, every sock he'd ever mismatched, every time he lied about flossing, flashed before his eyes. He knew what was coming. Gerald let out a horrific honk. I think it kind of sounded like honk, like that. You guys know how geese do that stuff. It was one that rattled the whole diner. Patrons ducked under tables, a baby cried, and somewhere in the distance, a car alarm mysteriously went off. Before Reginald could react, Gerald spread his wings, took flight, and like a feathery torpedo of doom, launched himself directly at Reginald's face. Chaos erupted. Reginald, in an act of pure survival instinct, threw his bowl of chili straight into the air. Now, in a just and merciful world, the chili would have simply landed on the floor. But this, my loves, is not a merciful world. The chili did a full 360-degree rotation, defied gravity for a concerning amount of time, and like a guided missile of fiery regret landed directly onto the mayor of Cleveland, who had just walked in for a late-night sandwich. Now, here's the thing about the mayor of Cleveland. He was a man of dignity, a man of honor, a man who had spent 3 hours gluing his expensive French-imported toupee onto his head that very morning. And that toupee, this glorious $3,000 swatch of fine imported yak hair, it absorbed the chili like a sponge. It sizzled, it burst into flames, and my dear sweet audience, the mayor ran screaming out of the diner, hair ablaze, yelling in French for absolutely no reason at all. Meanwhile, Gerald, The architect of this disaster honked voraciously, forever grabbing a breadstick from an abandoned table and sauntering out the front door like an action hero in a slow-motion explosion. Reginald, trembling, covered in chili, and questioning his life choices, sat stunned in silence as the waitress simply handed him the check and said, "We don't validate parking." Outside, Gerald stood on the hood of the parked car, watching, waiting, knowing that this was only the beginning. Some say Gerald was never seen again. Others claim he became a stock market analyst, but one thing is for certain, Reginald never ate chili again. Moral of the story, never trust a goose. The end. Thank you so much for taking the time for me to be able to read my story to you. And once again, this is Chauncey Beaumont. And darlings, a great story is like a fine wine. Bold, complex, and best enjoyed dramatically.